Something is off. All my sensors are going haywire.
What was that?
Unknown high energy output whirlpool closing in fast. Brace for impact electrical field increasing in proximity in T minus 5, 4, 3, electrical field wiring.
Guys, yesterday we dove into some TikToks how possibly that there's a vortex spinning in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And one of you guys commented and was like, oh, there's actual Russian footage. Now that you said something, I think that I found it. So let's take a closer look at this. But first, let's go back and recap so we're all on the same page. And we're going to dive extremely deep on this one. So make sure you got your life jackets on. Make sure you keep your head on a swivel because this is Dark Waters 9.
What if I told you we may also have been lied to about why there are tides? And I'm sure you're probably thinking there's no possible reason that there'd ever be justification to lie about why the tidal currents occur. But after watching this video, I can guarantee it will start making sense. Now, according to the official academia, including McGraw-Hill, the textbooks we all studied from in school, the way the tide works, McGraw-Hill, by the way, is owned by Pergamon Press, which is called Satan's Throne in a biblical translation, and it's owned by Robert Maxwell, which is Ghislaine Maxwell's father, but we'll save that for another video. According to the official story, tides are caused by the moon's gravitational pull. Now, despite the moon having many phases, the tides are entirely consistent. Every day, there are tides coming in and out. Even if the moon is not out, if it's a full moon, or if it's a sliver toenail moon, doesn't affect, the tides are tiding no matter what. But if the moon's gravitational field is what causes tides, then how come in the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and other massive lakes, like the Great Lakes, there are no tides? You'd think such a massive ocean would have tides, significant, similar to the big oceans, but that's not the case. Why? This is where it gets a little bit shocking. According to ancient civilizations who all believed the Earth to be quite a different shape than what NASA claims it is, there is said to be at the North Pole, which we can't go to, a gigantic mountain called Mount Meru, also known as Black Rock. It is a giant magnetic mountain, apparently.
And we're going to look at footage of that, and we're going to break this down. This is going to be a deep episode.
And there's said to be 4 rivers coming out of it. Notice also the 4 quadrants here. You have the Microsoft logo, which is also 4 quadrants. We have many corporate logos depicting 4 quadrants, perhaps in reference to this. We know they like to hide things in plain sight. But what they believed is that there is a vortex energy field at the center of the known Earth in their mind, which pulls the water in and pushes it out, pumping like a heartbeat, using electromagnetism, and the salinity in the ocean, of course, is highly conductive. And what adds credence to this, some of the roughest oceans in the world are closest to the North Pole, where
I'm telling you, if you guys ever watch Deadliest Catch, where they're out there crab fishing, look at those vessels. Look at the type of waters that they're going through.
Yeah, we got some big seas here, but I don't think I've ever. Here's a big one.
Watch out! Come on! We need to get down. We need to get down, fight. Let's go.
Get off deck, down, get off deck. What you got?
And you see everything freezes. So like you got to constantly knock that ice off. So the boat weighs less. You know, those dudes work hard, but look at that. Those waves is why we're here. Could these waves be bouncing off the ice wall?
where the source of this pulling and pushing force would be, like the Bering Sea, which is the most violent sea there is. Lastly, I will say Nikola Tesla believed gravity to be a shaky theory at best, and he believed the world ran on electromagnetism and relativity, not gravity.
This video is strictly for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research on everything. This is just theories, not factual. Now, I believe it's the Rupus nigra, and it is what some people theorize as being black rock or even possibly Mount Zion people speak about. Take a look at this video.
Do you know what this place is? It's located in the center of the North Pole. And it's the center of the Earth magnetic field, known as the Taurus field. That black thing in the center of the whirlwind is the tallest mountain on Earth, far more taller than the Mount Everest. It's so tall that even it keeps reaching out the clouds. It's the Rupes nigra, or the Black Rock, also known as Mount Mary. Some people also called it Mount Zion. You wouldn't find this massive mountain existence in mainstream science and media because it's deliberately concealed. Because if the world knew that there is such a huge mountain in the center of the Earth, it would change the course of history. This includes the true nature of our world will be rewritten, and that will undo the globe-shaped Earth theory and the entire timeline of the Earth from the beginning, and they don't want that. Look how the wind stream passes through that mountain. It blocks the wind stream because of its height and size. The Rupes nigra, or the Black Rock, described by Mercator as 33 French miles in size, or
Roughly 40 miles across.
40 miles in diameter. It's purported.
And you gotta ask yourself, why was this not once shown to you in history class? I can't think one time that they showed this to us. Like, hey, check out this map, this ancient map, and look at this land. You know, you would think this should be in all the textbooks, wouldn't you think? Like, I can't tell you how many different images depict this. How many different illustrations, old world illustrations show this that people have found. I can probably pull up at least 40 to 50.
Simply explain why all compasses point to this location. The biggest shareholder of all the major companies in the world is Black Rock. It's named after this mountain. Do you know what this place is?
Now let's bring it all together. Now, if we take the last theory from the last TikTok and we merge it with this, could this be how those tides are going in and out? You know, because it makes you think, how much of this earth really is covered in water? You know, they say what, it's 75%? What if it like slaps like the ice wall and that's how we're getting our tides? You know, it's like that will kind of explain it. I wonder if we could do some type of experiment, some type of scientific experiment where you use a kid pool as the ice wall, and it would have to be kind of tall, like 3 feet, 4 feet. And you have to put some type of cylindrical drain in the bottom, you know, but then how would it come back up? It would almost have to seep back up through like the land, kind of, you know. It's almost a mystery if you take this paradigm and bring it all together. It's really a miracle, honestly, to think how we even have land in the first place with all this water around us. It's almost like someone separated the waters from the waters for us. And it makes you think about the great deep, because you know they talk about the great deep many of times. So here's a beautiful examples. If we look at how the waters are separated from the waters, and look at the great deep right under Sheol, you know, so that giant black rock would have to be protruding right in the middle, and there would have to be some type of pump. Sheol might not be this big. That might be a misrepresentation. I don't know. But I know that there's a lot more water under than what they show. And look at that serpent. You guys see that serpent under there? How crazy would it be if that's the Leviathan moving and that's what caused earthquakes? Now that's a crazy theory. Taking a good look at this enclosed ecosystem, it makes you think about that tide theory. Like, I do wonder if this is the ice wall and how far back does it go? Because I do know there's stories of how I believe someone, I don't know where I heard it, but may have looked out near the edge and it just was void, you know? So what does void look like? Like, is it pure black? And then looking at all the water brings me back to the theory with the kid pool. Like, say if there's like a giant kid pool and you put sand in it, like, just exactly how much water would you have to put inside it to make it go up, to make that funnel work? Just exactly how far deep would you have to make that funnel go to make the tides go back? And that's a massive experiment. You know, it would probably take a good, who knows how big of an experiment that would be to try to replicate this. But that just, you know, it makes you think how much water is really under us. It's like wherever you dig, you're going to hit water. If you dig 200 yards down, either you're going to hit water or oil. And you don't even want to get me started about what they say oil comes from. You know, maybe we should look into that. All right, man explains where crude oil comes from. He's speaking in a different language, so I'm gonna let it play. You can read the subtitles at the bottom, but we're gonna go through the important parts. Interesting. He said there is no South Pole, and then there's more beings than humans on this earth. Interesting. Now, he's talking about how that there's a gate, a big gate that leads to various civilizations. Interesting. He's saying one of these civilizations is Gog and Magog. Now, what is Gog and Magog exactly? Let's type it in. It sounds familiar. I know it's in Revelations. Oh my goodness. Just the Wikipedia starts off going crazy. Look, it says Gog and Magog are associated with biblical and Quranic prophecies, most commonly understood as nations of evil forces that will wage war against God's people in the end times. And you know, a lot of people, you know, I know there's this movement of, you know, Satan's little season that people are saying we're in, but this is one of the wars that has to take place before we even go into 1,000-year reign. So that's something to think about. You know, I'm not saying one happened or one didn't happen. I'm just saying these are things to think about. All right, let's keep it pushing. Hit that like and subscribe button. What are you doing here? You watching these ain't hit a like or subscribe? You haven't dropped a code word? What are you doing here? All right, let's keep it pushing, man. And for your knowledge, the petroleum, the crude oil that exists in our lands, that's their rivers from them. That's just running rivers. and it goes underground inside the earth. What? Let's read that again. Man, slow down. And for your knowledge, the petroleum that exists in our lands, that's just their rivers for them. That's just running rivers. As it runs, it goes underground inside the earth until it reaches what? Reaches our lands, Middle Earth, until it reaches Middle Earth. Petroleum isn't the remains of the animal bones and dinosaurs. Uh-oh. What is it then? And such myths that people say, or the remains of ancient plants. No! Petroleum is rivers in their lands, runs deep underground into the earth until it reaches our lands. Is that clear? So this is extremely interesting. We know what oil is because we can dig it up, but the fact that he's saying those are the rivers of Mag and Magog, that's from their land. So it's basically like evil black liquid. Because when we look at evil land, that isn't necessarily Sheol, is it? Gog and Magog. Just to have a little line before line and a little precept before precept. This is where it mentions Gog and Magog, Revelation 28, and it shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. In the four quarters of the earth, does that mean all over the earth? And Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. That's a lot. That sounds like trillions. Way more than the population of Earth. So you mean to tell me that there's just going to be trillions of them? And they went out on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camps of the saints about and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. I'm not going to lie. One verse that does stand out to me, and they went up to the breadth of the earth. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. And compassed the camp of the saints about in the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. People do speak. Like if we look at, what is it, Utah? It just looks like something went down in Utah just by all those melted looking canyons. I don't know. This could be a stretch, but this is just what comes to my mind. You guys let me know your thoughts. I'm not saying, well, it says, and they went up, it compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city. Interesting. The beloved city. Interesting. Utah, the beloved city. Utah. Monuments. Okay, here's a couple Utah monuments. When it says that, thousands of them, like the sand of the sea came and fire and brimstone came down and they made it to the beloved city. It just makes you think, could this possibly been a city that got melted by fire and brimstone? This is in Utah National Park. You know what I'm saying? If we go back and look, if Gog and Magog already gathered them to battle, and they already been smited, fire and brimstone, could it be possible that they reached Utah and that's where it went down? And when you talk about the lake of fire, You talk about the lake of fire, this being black rock, you know, and this theory about tides going in and out because of this vortex at the North Pole. You know, how crazy would it be if there's just some type of gas flame emitting from this water? Like, because we do see, you know, water catch on fire from gas leaks. I believe it happens. Hey, I'm just saying, you know, it can show how fire can go on top of water. So, hey, I don't know if it's an actual lake, the entire lake has to be on fire, or if it's like this testifies as it being a lake because it's on top of water. It's not a big body of water that's on fire. I don't know, but it is a lake of fire if you ask me. Who really knows what type of activity is going on right below there? And they're saying this is a mountain that's protruding into the heavens. We don't know what type of activity. It's some type of activity because look at how it's pulling the entire atmosphere in. You know, the entire ionosphere. Imagine how electrically charged it's getting, siphoning all that ether down there, you know? Could it be a chopped tree of life? You know, this might have been a tree at one point. That would be insane. Damn. A tree protruding all the way out. Yes, let me just pause it. A tree protruding all the way out. If this looks like the base, you know, and it kind of does have like a little slant. You know, what if that mug came all the way out, like out there? Man, everybody could see that in like a 4,000-5,000 mile radius. You could see that tree. Probably not that far, but you could definitely see it. So, yeah, guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below. You know, these are just theories, you know, not necessarily needed for salvation, you know, but it definitely brings a paradigm to a full circle looking into a lot of this. But as always, I want to hear your guys' thoughts below. I just felt like we had to dive a little bit deeper into this as a collective, hear everyone's thoughts about it, you know. I'll talk to anybody else about it. They'll be like, what? You know? So it's like, this is definitely unlocking levels into the paradigm. You know, this dude's saying beyond the ice wall, that's the land of Gog and Magog out there. You know, so that is absolutely insane. What really is that oil made out of? What is it really used for? Because, I mean, look at it. This is an example of oil. It's just black. I don't think anything could live in that. Can anything live in crude oil? Oh, okay. So it says, yes, microorganisms like bacteria can live and consume crude oil. I wonder what those microorganisms look like zoomed up close. You know, and it also talks about fire and brimstone. It makes you wonder, could this be one of the actual buildings that was melted? Let's take a closer look.
When you first enter Chaco Canyon, one of the first landmarks you see is Fajada Butte. This butte sticks out prominently compared to the rest of the landscape and will almost force your attention upon it as you drive in. At the top of this butte exist 3 rock slabs. lined up right next to each other. Behind these slabs of rocks is a spiral petroglyph. On June 21st, the day of the summer solstice, around 11 o'clock a.m., a ray of sunlight illuminates the top of this spiral. Within about 15 minutes of it appearing, the ray of light will have slowly moved down the center of the petroglyph, piercing the center and marking the final day of the sun's journey north. When you first enter Chaco Canyon.
Interesting, because if this was a palace, it's old enough to have petroglyphs on it after the fire and brimstone happened. Damn. All right, guys. If you thought I didn't have another excellent specimen for you today, think again. This bicolor pink and purple fluorite specimen. Wow, look at the triangles. Or one could say this might classify as octahedrals. I try to use octahedral every chance I get. Forgive me. But yeah, if I had to name this, I would name it computer grapes. Yeah. What would you guys name this specimen? If I had to name this, I would call it computer grapes. That's all we have for today's video. If you made it this far, the code word for today is vortex. Go ahead and drop vortex in the comments below. When you do that, that lets me know you a real diver. You're a real explorer. Like my man back here. You really be on these waters with me. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys. I do want to go live on this topic, man. I'm not done. You know, I feel like we could talk about this for a couple hours, you know. I gotta chop this bad boy up and give it to you guys. So plan on a live soon where we will be diving into similar topics or the same thing, you know, just having the community talking together, the collective talking back and forth. It really helps looking at different angles, completing the paradigm of truth. You know, with that being said, this was the most mysterious TikToks on the internet today. See you later.